pumpkin soup for every single person in Britain. That's pretty incredible, isn't it? That's staggering. We talk about food wastage so often on this programme. That's staggering. Well, there's a campaign called Pumpkin Rescue, which is just lovely, isn't it? Pumpkin Rescue, looking to change all that. Let me introduce you to Tessa Tricks, who's from the environmental charity Hubbub, who are behind it. Morning to you, Tessa.
Morning, Mollie.
Hello, lovely. How are you this Saturday?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. I'm very much looking forward to Halloween. I do enjoy Halloween. I think it's not just for, well, it probably isn't for kids, is it? It is more an adult thing, but I do get excited around this time of year.
Yeah, there's lots of delicious pumpkins to get excited about, so
well,
for adults alike.
You say that, Tessa, but reading your statistics, that's staggering. 15 million pumpkins binned every Halloween.
So it's only a third of people that buy a pumpkin to carve them will end up eating them, which, I think is a pretty scary Halloween fact.
And why is that? Is that because people don't realise they are edible because they're billed as carving pumpkins?
Yeah, that's very much part of the problem. So people are quite unfamiliar with eating pumpkin, we found. So in 2016, we did some research. We found that only half of people in the UK had ever eaten pumpkin before. And kind of over that number said that they wouldn't know how to cook with a pumpkin. And then, as you've said, kind of again, half of people felt that their pumpkin wasn't Halloween food. And this is partly because a lot of the pumpkins that we see in supermarkets are labelled carving pumpkins, which I think gives people the idea that they can't be eaten, but they're still perfectly edible and can be turned into things like soups or stews or bulk up curries, and are delicious in their own right.
They are tricky though, aren't they, Tessa? Oh my goodness, it hurts your wrist, doesn't it, unless you've got the proper equipment. But there's so much mess and stringy bits and seeds and this, that and the other. It's not, do you think people just get fed up with, they get bored of trying to salvage the flesh because it is so messy?
Yeah, perhaps. And I think what we're saying here is it's very much about making the most of the bits that you do carve out. So we're not proposing that you eat the pumpkin after it's sat with a candle in its belly for days. But if you are, if you're scooping out the seeds, they are incredibly delicious and really good for you. Very rich in zinc. So if you're scooping those out at the start, you can just lightly boil them in some salty water and then bake them in an oven for 20 to 30 minutes at 180. But then the stringy bits, you can cook with those too. They make a really good kind of mulled pumpkin apple juice if you scoop those out. And then the bits of flesh, as I say, they work quite well to bulk things up. And if you're too tired to cook by the time you're kind of arm deep in pumpkin, then you can just steam them and freeze them later, or they'll last in the fridge for a few days.
Arm deep in pumpkin. I like that very much. I saw somewhere that you can make a cocktail. If you puree some of the fleshy bits, and you can make a cocktail with it. Now that sounds nice. I quite like that thought. It does sound nice. Yeah, not too bad at all. So you're having hashtag Pumpkin Rescue events all across the country, getting people together to educate them what they can do with this orange stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's very much kind of just a celebration of seasonal food, because there's so much fantastic local produce around at the moment, whether it's apples or pumpkins or squash or gourd. So we're excited to say there's a number of pumpkin rescues happening all around the UK, where people are doing cooking classes or feeding thousands of people with surplus pumpkins, or learning to compost their pumpkin. There's an event in Swaddling Coat where they're doing pumpkin archery. So people are getting very creative with their pumpkins.
Is that the nearest? Is that going to be the nearest one to us? The Swaddling Coat one?
It's probably the nearest one to you. Yes.
Archery. What? As in they're just going to lay lots out and you've got to hit them?
I think the biggest ones. You'll have to go along. I like it.
Yeah. I like the sound of that. Have you done yours already, Tessa, or is yours this weekend?
Mine will be this weekend, yeah.
I believe they're a bit smaller than normal this year because of the unseasonably hot weather we had across the summer. They're a little bit smaller this year.
Well, we've got a huge number anyway, but I think smaller, they're easier to handle. You can have a couple.
Oh, that's true. Less wrist work.
Yeah, and so if you do want any pumpkin recipes, then you can follow us on the hashtag Pumpkin Rescue on social media, or go to hubbub.org.uk, where we've got a whole plethora of pumpkin rescues, from cakes to soups, curries, fudge, you name it.
Sounds
you can
nice.
put your cocktail.
I was going to say, stick a cocktail on the end. I'll be there.